Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Good to be here.
So today we're looking at, I guess you'd call it a structural shift in the world of artificial intelligence.
A pretty big one.
Yeah, and I don't just mean, a new chip or another chatbot or some flashy demo video.
This is more fundamental.
This is a fundamental change in who is actually doing the inventing.
It's a shift in the balance of power, really.
Right, because for the last, decade,
Mm-hmm.
we've all been operating under this really heavy assumption.
The big lab model.
I call it the cathedral assumption. If you want to build something that's like world-changing in AI, you need $1 billion. You need a data center the size of a city.
And an army of PhDs.
An army of PhDs in white coats, exactly.
And to be fair, for a long time, that assumption was, it was absolutely correct. Innovation was a function of scale.
Totally.
If you didn't have the compute, you didn't have a seat at the table, you were just a spectator.
But the sources we're digging into today suggest that table is being flipped over. We're seeing the rise of what people are calling the one-man AI laboratory.
And this isn't about hobby projects.
No, not at all. This is about individuals outperforming entire corporate research divisions.
That's the key distinction. We aren't talking good for a solo developer. We're talking world-leading performance, period.
The kind of performance that makes the big labs sweat. And the headline event that really triggered this whole deep dive is a score.
A benchmark score.
A benchmark called ARC-AGI-2. And I know, benchmark scores can be dry.
Oh, they're usually just numbers on a spreadsheet.
But this one, well, it's shocking. An individual named Johan Land achieved a score that has the whole industry kind of questioning its entire R&D strategy.
It's causing a lot of cognitive dissonance, for sure. When an outlier like this shows up, you have to rewrite your model of how the world works.
So that's our mission for this dive. We're going to deconstruct exactly what Johan Land did. We'll look at the tools he used, because he didn't build a brain from scratch.
He did something much more interesting.
Much more interesting. And we'll talk about another figure, Peter Steinberger, who's taking this even further with autonomous agents. And ultimately, we have to ask the question, if one person can do this today, what happens to the big lab tomorrow?
It's the democratization of the bleeding edge.
Let's start with the score. Johan Land, ARC-AGI-2. He hit 72.9%.
72.9.
Okay, so to anyone who's not deep in this space, 73% sounds like a C-. It sounds like you barely passed.
Right.
So why is this number making people lose their minds? Why isn't this just average?
Because you have to understand what ARC-AGI-2 is actually testing. Most benchmarks we hear about, the bar exam or the medical boards that ChatGPT aced years ago, they're tests of knowledge retrieval. Right. Can the AI remember a fact it saw in its training data? It's basically a very fancy memory test.
So if it read a medical textbook in 2023, it can spit out the answer in 2026.
Exactly. But ARC-AGI-2 is different. It stands for Abstraction and Reasoning Corpus. It measures novel reasoning. It gives the AI a visual puzzle it has never ever seen before, with a pattern it has to figure out on the fly and then solve it.
You can't memorize the answer.
You can't. The answer doesn't exist in the training data. You have to think.
So it's an IQ test, not a trivia night.
Precisely. And in that context, 72.9% isn't a C-. It's a score that was previously thought to be, impossible without some massive breakthrough in model architecture.
Humans find these hard.
Humans find these puzzles very hard. For an AI to hit almost 73% it's just stratospheric.
Okay, so to really frame this, let's get a comparison. Who held the record before Johan Land?
The source points us to a group called Poetic. And Poetic is a great example of the old way, even though old in AI means, 6 months ago?
6 months ago, yeah. So Poetic wasn't a solo act.
No, they were a crack team. 6 brilliant engineers all working together.
Okay, so 6 brains, 1 problem. They've got the budget, the Slack channels, the daily stand-ups. What did they do?
They took Google's Gemini 3 Pro model, and out of the box, that model scored a 31.1% on this benchmark.
It was failing.
Failing hard. And through their collective effort, fine-tuning, prompt engineering, working together for weeks, they boosted that score to 54.0%.
Which, to be fair, that's a huge jump. That's almost double the performance.
It is. And at the time, the industry reaction was totally amazing. That was the ceiling.
That was the high watermark.
It took a team of 6 to drag a model from failing to just passing. Everyone patted them on the back.
And then Johan Land walked in.
One guy.
No team, no daily stand-ups.
And he hits 72.9%. He didn't just inch past the six-man team. He beat them by nearly 20 percentage points.
He lapped them.
Yeah, he lapped them.
That's the part that just it doesn't compute for me. Usually in engineering, more resources means better results. 6 engineers should beat 1 engineer.
Right.
So how does the math break down here? Is he just a singular genius?
He's obviously very talented, but just saying lone genius, I think, misses the point.
Okay.
The disruption here isn't about IQ. It's about methodology. It's about how he approached the problem.
And the source uses this one word, orchestration.
Right, orchestration. See, the Poetic team was trying to optimize one model.
Okay.
They were trying to make Gemini 3 Pro the best it could be. They were like mechanics trying to tune a single engine to go 200 miles per hour.
And Johan Land.
Johan Land realized that no single model is smart enough to solve these problems on its own, so he didn't try to build a better brain.
He didn't tune one engine.
No.
He built a better committee.
A better committee is a great way to put it, or a symphony orchestra. He took the best models on the market, models that are usually competitors, and he wired them together to work as a single system.
Let's list the lineup, because this is like an all-star team for 2026 AI. Who's in this orchestra?
It's a cross-industry collaboration. First, he's got GPT 5.2.
The powerhouse from OpenAI.
Yep, and the source notes a figure of 54.2% next to that, which is likely its baseline contribution. It's the heavy lifter. But then he brings in Gemini 3 Pro.
The same model the Poetic team used.
The very same one. Then he adds Claude Opus 4.5. And finally, Llama 470B.
I want to just pause on that list. You have OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, and Meta. These companies are in a death match for corporate dominance. They're suing each other, hiding their secrets. And this one guy is just taking their products and mixing them together.
That's the beauty of the API economy. You don't have to choose a side.
Right.
You can use all of them. You can be the layer above the model wars.
But why does that work? Why isn't it a case of too many cooks in the kitchen? If I ask 4 people for advice, sometimes I just get 4 different confusing answers.
And that's the risk, but that's where the orchestration part comes in. It's not just asking all 4 and taking a vote. It's about assigning roles based on strength.
Okay, so give me an example. How would you cast these roles?
Well, we know these models have different, let's call them personalities or capabilities. Claude Opus is famously good at nuance and large context and following really complex instructions.
Okay.
GPT 5.2 is a logic monster. It's very rigid, very mathematical. Gemini has incredible multimodal context. It sees visual data differently than the others. And Llama...
Llama's the open weight model.
Exactly. Llama 470B is efficient, and because it's open, you can tweak it more granularly. So Land isn't just blasting a prompt to all of them at once.
Yeah.
He's probably having one model, maybe Claude, break down the problem into sub-steps. Then he feeds those steps to GPT 5.2 to execute the logic part.
Okay, that makes sense.
Then he might take GPT's answer and feed it to Gemini and ask it, hey, is there anything visually missing here? And finally, he might have another instance of Claude critique the final result before it's submitted.
So it's a peer review process happening in milliseconds.
Yes. He's using the diversity of the models to cover their individual blind spots. If GPT 5.2 hallucinates a logic step, Claude might catch it. If Claude misses a visual pattern, Gemini picks it up.
It's ensemble learning on steroids.
That's a great way to put it.
So the one-man lab isn't really one man. It's one man commanding a digital staff of the world's smartest AIs.
That is the structural shift. The lab isn't the building anymore. The lab is the architecture you build in your code to route information between these giants.
And this brings up a really practical point about efficiency. The Poetic 6 people. We've all been in corporate environments.
Oh, yeah.
6 people means consensus building. It means miscommunication.
The communication overhead.
Yeah.
The friction.
Right. Johan Land doesn't have communication overhead. He has an idea, he changes the code, he runs the test.
That agility is so crucial. The feedback loop for a single person orchestrating APIs is almost instantaneous. For a team of 6, documenting changes, getting approval, that feedback loop could be days or weeks.
And in the field moving this fast, the speed of iteration wins.
It always wins.
So Land proves you can orchestrate your way to the top, but the source says this isn't just about him. He's the headline, but not the only data point.
No, the source explicitly frames this as the rise of the one-man AI laboratory, plural.
It's a trend.
It's a trend. And they bring up another name to show a different angle on this, Peter Steinberger.
Right. Steinberger's work sounds a bit different. Land is winning benchmarks by mixing models. What's Steinberger up to?
Steinberger is focused on agency. The source says he single-handedly set a new standard with a system called OpenClaw.
OpenClaw. Sounds aggressive. And the description here gets a little technical. It says it's made of autonomous, recursive, self-improving agents.
It is a mouthful of buzzwords.
Let's unpack those three. Let's start with autonomous. What does that mean here?
Autonomous means the software has a goal, not just a task. A chatbot waits for you to type a question. An autonomous agent gets a mission. Research this topic, find the contradictions, and write a report.
And it just goes.
It goes off and does the browsing, the reading, the synthesizing, all without you clicking anything. It has its own drive.
Okay. Next word. Recursive.
Recursion, in this context, means the output of the process becomes the input for the next cycle. The system feeds on its own work. It checks its own code, finds an error, fixes it, and then uses the newly fixed code to run the next pass. It's like a snake eating its own tail, but it gets bigger as it does.
Which leads right into that third phrase, self-improving.
Right. Most software degrades over time. It gets buggy, slow. This software is designed to get better the longer it runs. It learns from its own mistakes without a human needing to push a patch update.
And Steinberger built this by himself.
Single-handedly. And that is the jaw-dropper, because historically, building a self-improving recursive AI system is the holy grail.
Right, that's what DeepMind and OpenAI have hundreds of researchers trying to solve.
Exactly. And here's one guy doing it, presumably from his home office.
Likely in his pajamas.
It just reinforces the theme perfectly. The complexity of the work isn't shrinking. Building recursive agents is incredibly hard, but the leverage available to a single person has just skyrocketed.
You don't need a department to build the infrastructure anymore.
You just need to write the logic that connects the pieces.
It feels like we're watching the collapse of the barrier to entry.
That's exactly how the source concludes. They say, and I'm quoting here, "We no longer need crack teams or a ton of money to do the highest level pioneering work in AI."
That is a direct threat to the Silicon Valley status quo. The whole VC model is built on, I give you $10 million so you can hire the team to build the tech.
Right.
If you don't need the money or the team.
Then the power shifts to the idea. It shifts to the architect. We're moving from a capital-intensive industry where whoever has the most servers wins to a creativity-intensive one.
Let's just trace the timeline the source lays out, because the speed of this shift is what's really disorienting.
It is accelerating. Phase 1 was the team era. That's poetic. 6 people, 54% score. We thought that was the peak.
And that was just a few months ago.
Very recently. Then phase 2. The agent era begins with people like Steinberger building OpenClaw. One person, high complexity, building agents that work on their own.
And now phase 3.
Johan Land. One person, orchestrating the giants to hit 72.9%. The definition of state-of-the-art keeps going up.
But the number of people required to reach it keeps going down.
It's an inverse relationship, and a dangerous one for incumbents. If a laboratory is just a state of mind for one person with an internet connection and some API keys,
then the big corporate labs are suddenly competing with thousands of Johan Lands.
And the Johan Lands don't have HR departments. They don't have quarterly earnings calls or compliance training.
They just code.
They're guerrilla researchers, agile, fast, and using the big company's own weapons against them. Remember, Land used Google and OpenAI's models to beat the benchmarks that Google and OpenAI care about.
It's almost poetic. He's standing on the shoulders of giants to punch the giants in the face.
That's a vivid image, but yes, he is leveraging the ecosystem to outperform the ecosystem. And because he isn't loyal to one model, he can swap them out.
Well, that's a good point.
If GPT-6 comes out tomorrow, he just plugs it in. The poetic team, working inside a specific corporate ecosystem, might be stuck with what they have.
So we've established the one-man lab is real, it's effective, it's fast. But before we wrap, I want to push this one step further. We've seen Land's orchestration, and we've seen Steinberger's agency. What happens when you crash those two things together?
That is the logical next step.
Because right now, Johan Land is the conductor. He's the human in the loop. He wrote the code that tells GPT 5.2 to talk to Claude. He's the bottleneck.
Correct. He has to sleep. He has to eat.
But Steinberger's agents don't sleep. What happens when the one-man lab decides to automate the orchestration itself?
So you mean instead of a human manually tuning the mix of models, deciding, oh, Claude should handle the critique, you have a recursive agent doing that allocation?
Exactly. What if Steinberger's OpenClaw is told, your mission is to get the highest score on ARC-AGI-2. Here are the API keys for GPT-5, Claude, and Gemini. Go.
That That creates a flywheel effect that is hard to wrap your head around.
Right.
If you have an autonomous agent that can test different orchestration strategies, learn which ones work, and then update its own strategy 24 hours a day.
Then you move from a one-man lab to a one-man army.
A one-man army of recursive intelligence. At that point, the human's role shifts again. You're not the conductor anymore. You're almost the god of that small universe. You just set the objective, and the system evolves to reach it.
And the scary part is, the system might find orchestration methods that a human would never think of.
Almost certainly. It might find that sending the data to Llama first, then to Gemini, then back to Llama produces a 1% better result. A human might not try that. It doesn't make logical sense to us.
But the agent doesn't care about logic.
It just cares about the score.
It sounds like science fiction, but looking at these sources, looking at 72.9%, looking at OpenClaw, it feels like we're maybe 6 months away from that reality.
It might even be less. The tools are there. The models are there. It's just waiting for the next Johan Land to put them together in that specific configuration.
The power is moving to the edge. It's moving to the individual. And for everyone listening, whether you're a developer or just watching this space, the lesson seems pretty clear. You don't need permission, and you don't need $1 billion.
You just need curiosity, a credit card for the API costs, and a good internet connection.
It's a fascinating look at how the landscape is changing right under our feet. The big glass building isn't the only place the future's being built anymore. Thanks for unpacking this with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive. Stay curious.
Goodbye, everyone.